Hi, I'm Rabbi Lisa Delson.
I'm Cantor Annie Rose.
And this is the 5th week of our Counting the Omer video blog. This week we are going to be discussing humility.
Humility is a very important trait, something we all should be aspiring for all the time. But we think it's quite possible to go too far in the direction of almost self-deprecation. That humility, yes. But then when you doubt yourself too much or go too much in that direction, you become disempowered. And so the most important thing, first of all, is to know your own power in the best ways so that you can be all that you can be. And at the same time, to understand what humility is and the function that it plays in our lives.
So when we were thinking about humility, we were trying to come up with some way that would mediate between self-deprecation, but also being aware of one's capabilities and not being boastful. So the solution kind of that we came up with was the idea of being a good listener, working on skills of listening. Because when you listen to someone else, it takes a great deal of humility in order to really hear what they're saying and respond in a way that meets them where they are, rather than thinking about the next thing you're going to say.
Exactly. And listening certainly has a high value in Judaism. When you think of our most important prayer, the central prayer, the Shema, the very first word, God tells us to listen, to be listening. In many of the Psalms, we say to God, please listen, listen, hear my prayer. So God asks us to listen, we ask God to listen. So we have to remember that that is a very high value and something that plays a part in many of the most important aspects of communication in our own lives. And the communication springs, of course, from our own sense of ourselves. So again, if you have a sense of humility, but also self-worth and value, and go into all situations knowing that you're a good listener, and actually that you're expecting other people to listen to you well, too, things are going to go well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So there's one of my favorite prayers that we say on Saturday morning, also comes from our Siddur Mishkan Tefillah, and it's on page 330 if you happen to have it at home. It says, on this Shabbat day, as you graciously receive our prayers, help us to hear your call. Grant us enough health to fulfill our duties and the compassion we need to attend to others. Teach us humility that we may perceive our own faults and grant us the wisdom to be forgiving of others. Give us the courage to be true to our highest selves and the charity to see the best in those around us. Give us patience enough not to become discouraged, hope enough to overcome all fears for the future, and faith enough to know your presence. O source of blessing, look with favor upon us, and may our offerings be acceptable to you.
Amen. So
this really speaks to the idea of being humble, because it's not saying I expect all of these things to happen, but it's a self-awareness that I'm a good enough person, and I do things good enough in my life that this would be something nice for me to have.
Exactly, yeah. This line about teach us humility that we may perceive our own faults and grant us the wisdom to be forgiving of others. I think possibly first we need to forgive ourselves and keeping humility at the forefront, but forgiving ourselves so that we can live in our strength and do our best in everything we do. Mm-hmm. Trusting ourselves.
Yes. So we hope that you take this lesson of humility with you during this week 5 of Counting the Omer. And we can say the blessing together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer.
Have a great week.
Bye, everybody.